right, we are going to start. Our colleague is here. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second day of the public hearings that are organized or conducted by NERSA for the application that was filed by ESCOM. It is the application for the 6th multi-year price determination for revenue required by ESCOM for the next 3 years, being 2025, 26, 2026, 27, and 2027, 28. We are going to give the opportunity for other parties that registered to give us presentations today. But before I do so, for the benefit of those that were not here yesterday, I would like to introduce the members of the panel, starting with myself. My name is Nomfundo Maseti. I am the full-time regulator member, primarily responsible for piped gas at NERSA. And today I'll be chairing the proceedings for the electricity portfolio at NERSA. And with me today, I'm with my colleagues, starting with the chairperson of the energy regulator, Mr. Tembani Pukula. If you can kindly greet Mr. Pukula.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To my right is Mr. Musuvukile Mkize, who is the member primarily responsible for petroleum pipelines and also is the member of the electricity subcommittee.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning to all the attendees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to my immediate left is Ms. Nomalanga Sitole, who is the CEO of NERSA and the member of the electricity subcommittee.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning as well.
Thank you very much. Now moving to my far left is Ms. Tembeka Simane, who is the member of the energy regulator and the member of the electricity subcommittee. Ms. Simane.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
All right, thank you very much. Just to remind those that will be presenting today that all the presentations will be done under oath and only the members of this panel are allowed to ask questions. But if you have a question that you would like to clarify from the presenters, please write that question on a piece of paper, and that piece of paper you can hand it over to Mr. Walter Mabuza. We will inform you when he's inside the room. Also would like you to put your cell phones on silent mode, please, so that they don't interrupt the proceedings. And also if you can kindly not speak so that we can show some respect to the presenters and people that will be speaking, and so that everybody can focus and not be disturbed. We are going to now request that we be assisted with evacuation procedures. I would like to hand over to you. I don't have the name, but you can just inform the audience who you are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Luvo. Thank you for joining us again in our facilities. Evacuation in case of emergency. No stairs to be used. No lift to be used. You guys need to use the staircases, which is outside. When you're coming out from that door, there's stairs on your right and there's another stairs on your left. Our meeting point is in Vetakan Street. No fire drills were planned for the day. And our dining room is on your left, which is the restaurant, is where we're going to have lunch. And for those ones who are smoking, on the second door of the emergency door, you're gonna see the pool area over there. So it's where they're going to use if there is any smokers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to remind the members of the public that should you require any translations services, we do have these headphones at the back, and you can make a request at the back. And I think the various languages there, you can press press number 2 for Xhosa, and 3 for Afrikaans, and 1 for English. Thank you very much. We want to proceed straight to the first presenter today, and that is Yanni Stradom from Agri Western Cape. Good morning. Good morning. Do you have any objections in taking the oath?
No, Chair.
Okay. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to provide to this panel today is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, Chair.
All right, thank you. May you please state your name and your designation at Agri Western Cape?
Chair, I'm Yanni Strydom, spelled with 2 N's, not Yanni, and I'm the current CEO at Agri Western Cape.
All right, thank you. You may begin with your presentation.
Chair, thank you very much, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, for this opportunity to just present on behalf of agriculture sector in the Western Cape. Apologies, our view in terms of Eskom's application requests to yourself as the regulator. Chair, with the time given of 10 minutes, I'm going to run quite quickly through our presentation, but I would like just to refer to the fact that on the 1st of November we did submit our comments in writing to you as a regulator. So I'll briefly just touch on some of the questions and the points. And this is what I intend to touch on this morning, is just the background on who Agri Western Cape is, importance of electricity in our sector, the debt of municipalities, the NPAs, the stakeholder questions that was proposed from the regulator or posed from the regulator side, and strategic priorities. This thing is not moving. There you go, thanks. So, Chair, just in short, I'm not going to dwell on this. Agri Western Cape represents around about 3,500 commercial farmers in our province, throughout the whole province. So, with 89 farmer unions affiliated with our organization. That's just the structure of organized agriculture, and we, the provincial affiliate of our national body, Agri SA, who I also believe will do a presentation to the committee at a later stage. So, Chair, why is electricity important for our sector? The agriculture sector in 23-24 spent around about 10.4 billion rand in terms of electricity, and in the Western Cape 2.6 billion, so 22.4% of that amount. And 90%, roughly 90% of agriculture producers, primary agriculture producers, are dependent on Eskom as their primary source of electricity. We know in the province we have high value crops, fruit industry that's very dependent on irrigation, and I just want to add there also the cold chain, very important because we work with perishable products, so electricity a critical input in our sustainability. And also the cost of electricity is a prominent determinant of the profitability of the agriculture sector. And unfortunately, we're extremely low price electricity, indicating that we might have in the agriculture sector a captured market in the short term. Chair, I'm not going to dwell too much on this. I think it's well known, and I'm sure it will be mentioned by all the speakers. It's a concern for us as well. So given my time, you've got the presentation. We are also concerned about that plus minus 80 billion rand outstanding debt that could have influenced the application of Eskom to you as a regulator, is our belief. So another concern before I get to your questions is the MPAs, and our concern is for 2026 a further 10 NPAs were included, resulting in almost 6% percentage points of the requested tariff increase of 36.15%, and we believe that that perhaps should be revisited and see how that can perhaps reduce the request, as the data. Our concern is because of the data, the international data, that we are amongst the lowest in terms of our cost or prices of Eskom. Why are these NPAs approved or allowed, and resulting in extra pressure in terms of the cost that the other users at Eskom needs to bear? So the stakeholder questions, I'm not going to dwell on this. This is what's in the whole application. So our commentary is just that a reduction in the major cost drivers is necessary. Other aspects, as I've mentioned or alluded to, is the municipal debt and the MPAs, and then also corruption should be addressed. And Agri Western Cape believes that tariff increases should at least be sufficient to transition Eskom towards a more cost-reflective electricity tariff, but prudently and effectively incurred. Unfortunately, currently, there prevails skepticism as to whether prudence and efficiency are adhered to. The observed disconnect between the regulator and Eskom partly testify to this. A critical factor in this regard is the prudency of contracts, and in the previous years we also alluded to that and commented on that, and we really think, or we're really of the opinion that the energy regulator should review the efficiency of all contracts in that regard. Just okay, question 2A, commentary on the treatment of cost. Various costs were listed: coal costs, operating costs, RAB, and sales forecasting. So I'm not going to dwell too long, as I said in the beginning, the time factor, but primary energy costs, the largest contributor to the current request. Then also the coal remains the dominant primary energy cost, almost 70% of the total primary energy cost, and coal prices and availability are key determinant of cost generation. So approximately 64% of South African coal market is dominated by 5 rail players, and so that's why it's quite important that the contract oversight in terms of anti-competitive pricing practices. Coal procurement challenges, Eskom supply base limited, mines targeting export markets, and probably on the right hand side you'll see quite a sort of controversial recommendation that perhaps temporary export duty should be nou hardloop ek uit Engels uit, should be investigated, but thank you for the translators at the back there. Right, okay, so the second question, part 2, the treatment of operating costs. We have seen that there's a drastic increase from NASA's base decision of almost 50%, 62 billion in 25, and Eskom application in 26 of 93 billion. So we would like to get a more understandable exposition, or we recommend should be disclosed for us to really comment on this, and because of the vast differences in calculations between the regulator and Eskom, is for us difficult to understand. So the treatment of operating costs, the workforce, Chair, I'm not going to dwell too much on this, but it's just important that to ensure that we are in line with market costs and efficient in terms of the employment. And we believe that it's the regulator's duty to scrutinize the level of employment as well as the workforce cost. Maintenance, I think we all as South Africans are concerned about that because of the age of our power stations, and we believe there's no new power stations planned ahead. And that those supposed to be decommissioned are brought back into operation. So the existing capacity needs to run harder. So the result will be then additional maintenance cost in that regard. The treatment of the RAB, depreciated replacement cost assets constitute the bulk of the RAB and will decrease, in our view, substantially over the particular period. The value of assets was determined in March 2020, and now in 2024, more than 500 billion was added to the opening balance of evaluation adjustment, doubling the value of RAB. We believe the regulators should probably revisit these figures with respect to seriously inflated new generating facilities, and then also the replacement cost could be much lower. Apologies. At least some of the existing infrastructure plants is unlikely to be replaced, as I previously mentioned, implying that historical cost might be a better basis for valuation. Sales forecasting. We believe that Eskom application indicates a decline of 1.8 and 1.3 respectively for 26-27 in terms of the sales forecast, but in sales since 26, Eskom indicated that their sales declined by 0.5%. So under these circumstances, one could at least expect that variable costs should decrease accordingly if that amount of sales will decrease as per the application. So due to various factors, the economy at large expected to become less energy intensive, and I don't know, perhaps that's why Eskom is also applying for that 1.8 and 1.3 decrease in sales. Our opinion, if the 36% tariff increase materialized, a response in demand will be unforeseen, regardless, as I previously mentioned, of the price inelasticity of the electricity demand. And should this increase be improved, it would be detrimental to Eskom's revenue if existing inefficiencies cannot be overcome. Good utilization of the fleet. Again, we all understand the age of it and what the increase in maintenance will be. In terms of NERSA, the regulator's discretion in this regard, whether NERSA will be in a position to exercise any discretion in this regard is unlikely, as Eskom deemed it necessary for optimum supply of electricity. So we believe they will have to continue using these old generating facilities. In terms of the NTCA generation and distribution, this should be done in the future is advisable. More clearly delineated operating costs, assets, lifespans, and cost of capital. Inefficiencies probably earlier identified should be attended to, and the extent of cross-subsidization internally made clearer. In terms of prudency and inefficiency of Eskom, alluded to contract oversight, as I previously said, fraud and corruption recovery in our submission that was submitted. Remediate actions are the responsibility of the regulator and the line departments within the government. In terms of the ERA, the regulator must enforce performance and compliance and take appropriate steps in the case of non-performance. I don't know my time, Chair. I'm gonna, because I want to
over
get
by 2 minutes, but you can.
Am I over?
Up.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I just jump into the conclusions? In terms, I just want to determine tenor. Okay. Comments. Conclusion, recommendations. I think that's just basically, it's important for all those three role players, Eskom's, the South African economy, the public, and what will be at their best interest. And given the current use of electricity in the agri sector, many producers, and I want to reiterate that, Chair, many producers won't be able to afford the cost increase of this magnitude. Currently, the agriculture sector is faced with the cost squeeze effect, and where we find that our input costs rises at a higher percentage than our output prices. So the agriculture sector is really in a cost squeeze at this stage. With a view to reduce the drastic tariff increase proposed by Eskom, our submission recommend, and this is my final slide, Chair. Thank you for allowing me to run over my time. We would like to refer to the VGBE report of National Treasury that was released on the 1st of March 2024. We recommend more stringent measures to collect outstanding debt, the 80 billion that are referred to and that we all know about from municipalities, reducing the requested level of the ROA to more manageable levels, temporary forfeiture of the environmental levy and carbon tax by the fiscus. I know it will be a challenge, but it's a huge factor or contributor to the 36% application at this stage. And revisiting negotiated price agreements, greater involvement of the regulator in oversight of Eskom contracts, speeding up the process to deal with fraud and corruption, and as previously mentioned, and our previous submissions as well, the disconnect between the regulator and Eskom, especially with respect to operating cost and the calculation thereof, possibility, and I've said this is a bit controversial, but something to look into, export duties on coal exports, and then limited further financial support by government to be turned into equity in future. That's the ideal situation. And then consideration of the economic impact of an increase of this magnitude in electricity tariffs on the economy. Possible lead to increasing inflation and also interest rates. And we just heard this morning that probably there will be a decrease in the interest rate because of our inflation that's decreasing. But I think with approval of this type of Eskom tariff will lead to increasing inflation and then to manage that increase in interest rates again. Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity and apologies for running over my time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Strydom, for your presentation this morning. If you can have a piece of paper to take down the questions that will be coming from the members. I would like to start on my left. Ms. Simane, any questions of clarity?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm fine.
Thank you very much, Advocate Stole. Right, going to Mr. Mkhize.
Thanks, Chair. I'm covered, but I would firstly just to thank you for the presentation. I think for me it would help if Agri Western Cape can provide information concerning how their profile has changed in terms of energy demand. If you have that kind of information, not expecting an answer here and now, but if you can provide that so that we can see the changes and how, if there are any that have migrated to solar, etc., that will kind of bring some insight, especially when we look at the issues of elasticity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Mr. Pukul.
Thank you. Mr. Strydom, in your second slide, you're indicating that if the municipal debt would be sorted out, the increase would be 5%. How did you reach that? And just for interest's sake, what is the percentage or the contribution of electricity to to your costs as a percentage? What does it make in your total costing of your industry? You can also give us a range if you don't have the actual number. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to ask just one question from my side. It is on the issue of the inelasticity. Just to understand whether it will the agri producers will still be inelastic even if the price increase is at 36%. Will they still be inelastic? And is it because there's lack of alternatives that could come in and provide electricity or energy at reliable, on a reliable basis, that you will still be sticking to one supplier and not look elsewhere? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the questions. So in terms of the profile of changing, and on the first question, we would gladly submit. We did a survey last year with our members in terms of the percentage of renewable energy or alternative energy with regards to Eskom, the usage of Eskom. Chair, on the 5% calculation, I would gladly submit in writing our calculations, if that's fine with the survey. And then in terms of the inelasticity, as mentioned in one of my slides, I think what happens is that given the fact that there's the agro energy fund from Land Bank, the commercial banks are also joining in assisting with finance of alternative energy. We do see a tendency of farmers going the route of alternative energy. So, and that will basically also be confirmed in that information regarding a survey that we've done, that although we are we have an inelasticity, there's still at a point, there's a tipping point where you are forced to do it, because especially as I mentioned, we're working with in a large area of perishable products, a cold chain that's very critical for our produce to maintain their quality to reach the export markets. And through this province, we export more than 55% of all primary agricultural produce. So it's critical earner of foreign currency, and we need to maintain that cold chain. So I hope I've answered the questions, and we will submit in writing the other two, if it's fine with you, Chair.
That is in order. If you can kindly submit that in the next 7 days, please.
I will do, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We now move on to the next presenter, which is the members of the public. I've got the names of is it Tahmida Adams, Josephine Fortune, as well as Bella Ward. Okay. Okay, I will start with you, ma'am. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to provide is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, please state your name and your position for the constituency that you represent.
My name is Josephine Fortune. I'm from Mitchells Plain, Tafelsig.
Okay. All right. Can we then get the next one? Please assist with the adjustment of the mic because we cannot hear them clearly. All right, ma'am, can you please step forward, closer to the mic? May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Please state your name and your designation at the association that you represent.
My name is Beulah Ward, and I'm from East Ridge, Mitchells Plain.
Okay, all right. We're going to the next one. Good morning, Mama. Please
Good
step.
morning, people.
Okay, come closer, Ma. All right, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
All right, please state your name.
My name is Tahmida Adams, and I'm currently from Mitchells Plain, Pecan Valley.
All right, thank you very much. You may start with your presentations.
First of all, good morning, ladies and gents. My name is Tahmida, and I'm currently from Mitchells Plain, Pecan Valley. I am a senior citizen and I get a disability grant. I have 4 children, which of 2 is unemployed, and 5 grandchildren in total. I help to take care of them as well. I also need to buy groceries, toiletries, and most importantly, electricity. On the day I received my grant, my money is already worked out with no change but short. The state hospital doesn't always have stock, so I need to buy medication as well. Then I need to choose between medication, food or electricity. We need electricity every day because we need to make food, boiling water for the small kids bottle. If there's no electricity, the little food we have in the fridge goes off. Then we need to throw it away. The high rate of electricity is a financial burden which is affecting our health and dignity. We cannot afford another electricity increase as we are barely surviving and really struggling. Thank you so much.
I present Tafelsig community. I'm here to share how the proposed electricity increase will affect me and my family. I need to buy more electricity than food. We are demanding transparency and accountability. Our community can no longer carry the burden of mismanagement and rising costs. The increased cost that I have to cut from food to buy electricity, and the community cannot help because they are in the same predicament as you. ESCOM take us all to live in poverty.
Good morning. My name is Beulah Ward from East Ridge, Mitchells Plain. Electricity is an essential commodity used by everyone in this country. To name a few, communities, industries, restaurants. At this moment, with the electricity price as it is, we struggle to pay for basic needs, especially food, transport, to name a few. We are struggling to make ends meet, and with the looming tariff hike, we will be in dire straits.
All right, thank you very much. What's wrong? All right, thank you very much to the presenters. We've got the message and the challenges that you have stated with regards to the affordability and the choices that you have to make, given the fact that you having challenges in affording the cost of electricity. Thank you very much for your time and for being here today. We thank you. We now move on to the next presenter, which is Good Party. We've got the name of Brett Heron. All right. Thank you very much. We move on then to take another presentation from the members of the public. I've got the names of Jacoba Philander, Valerie Paris, and Miranda Klassen. All right, ma'am, good morning. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Please state your name.
My name is Jacoba Philander, and I'm from Mitchells Plain in the community of East Ridge.
All right, thank you very much. Shall we go to the next one, please? All right, may you please raise your right hand, ma'am? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
So help me God.
Thank you. Please state your name and where you come from, which community you come from.
My name is Miranda Klassen. Ek sê my surname is not spelled correct. It's with a C and it's Mirinda. I'm here from the Mitchells Plain Community Beacon Valley section. And I'm here to represent my community.
Okay, thank you very much. You may start with your presentation.
First of all, I would just want to greet each and everyone. I'm presenting Eastridge Mitchells Plain. My family has lived in this area for generations. Yet we're still struggling to access reliable, affordable electricity. Every time tariffs rise, we feel like we're not being pushed further away from the most basic rights. Secondly, electricity isn't a conveniently, it is essential to the modern life of our daily existence. Highly cost push valuable communities further into poverty and reinforce the divide between those who can afford electricity and those who can't. Access to the affordable every day should be seen as a right for all of us in South Africa. My calling on to NISA is, as a pensioner, to recognize that importance of the affordability electricity, access for everyone, and to rethink the current tariff structure to ensure equity for all our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
I would just like to put my 5-minute time on, as I don't want to exceed my time. So I'm here because I cannot afford the high tariff rate of electricity. As I am a divorcee of 15 years, I have raised my kids, they are all grown up, but I'm now currently raising my 6-year-old grandchild. So what we get in as an income is 1,000 rand that her mother gives to her every month, and 360 rand from the 370 that we get from government every month. So for me to buy food and electricity is a daily challenge, as I am spending 10 rand in the morning on electricity. I don't bother with the daytime, and then I buy a 10 rand at night. That accumulates to 70 rand that I spend for 7 days in the morning, and 70 rand that I spend at night. And that is just to use a kettle for me for a cup of tea, because I cannot afford to buy a lot of food. So I'm basically a tea and a coffee person. And that is this body that you see today. Wasn't even actually my body. I have lost such a lot of weight between deciding electricity or food. So I'm not actually a person that eats a lot, but I have lost a lot of weight. I'm also currently on medication where people think if you sit in front of a mental health doctor's office, they think you are mentally disturbed. You're not always there because you are mentally disturbed. You are mentally drained. You are physically drained. You are emotionally drained. You're sitting there because you need something to just keep you calm during the daytime, because you have to brainstorm every day. Food, electricity, and the food is going up. Not once a year, the food is going up constantly. So what I'm running for is the specials. If there's no special in the shop, I'm not going to buy certain items. So basically, what I have decided is just to buy porridge, milk, and sugar. If I have that with tea bags in my house, and a butter and a bread, and then I have to go on with that. And that is my daily lifestyle. I think sometimes I don't even watch television anymore. As when it was load shedding, I feel now that I was actually prepared for home shedding, because now after the load shedding, I have more home shedding than I had load shedding, because I'm a person, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm not on a substance. But what comforts me when I don't have something to eat during the daytime, I would put on my music, I would listen to my gospel, and that would just feed my soul and keep me happy. But now I punch in a 10 rand. For a 10 rand, I get 1.3 for the day. So if on my property, there's like 7 people. So 2 people buy light and the others just use the light because of the unemployment in the country. Me, myself, if I try to look for a job for myself for an extra income, then my age bracket counts against me as they are looking for people between the age of 18 and 35. So I'm 48 years old today and I'm struggling to find a job because I'm now a bit too old. It's either I must have a very good experience or qualifications in order for me to find a job to look after myself, as I was dependent on a husband. And for 15 years that I've been divorced, I have to cater and look after myself. So I sometimes go out and I have to do charge jobs for other people just to get an extra income. Because when I deduct that 70 rand in the morning for 7 days and at night for 7 days, I'm sitting with a 670 rand, where I must budget now a 5 kg rice with a 170 rand 5 kg chicken, and then I must now decide from the change porridge milk so the child can just go on. Sometimes I have to send my grandchild to school without a lunchbox. Then she have to go to the food scheme and eat from the food that's being provided there in the morning for porridge and for her for lunch. And I don't feel good about it because, I mean, that is how, when I raised my kids, I had to go through that struggle. But at least I was working because I was younger. But at the current moment, I didn't feel that my offspring must go through the same trauma and through the same pain and struggle as my children did. So I don't think this hike is gonna do it for me. If I should now buy light and I must get less than 1.3 units for 10 rand, it's totally gonna kill me. And I thank you for listening to my proposal.
Thank you very much. I'm just checking if there's any questions of clarity from the colleagues. It looks like there's none, but I think the one common feature from your presentation is the issue of affordability and the choices that people in the communities are facing. It gives us an insight as to how are you affected on a day-by-day basis. Some of us might not be there. Some of us might be completely aloof to the realities of what the communities are facing on a day-to-day basis. The one other thing, though, that is a takeaway from us, even from yesterday, the issue of 10 rands. We might think that it is nothing, but that 10 rands, even to try and get that 10 rands that you might actually get next door or wherever, and the sharing of that little electricity so that you can actually have something, boil some water for your children and all of that. But this common feature of 10 rands, it is something that we must be alive to. We might not, think that it is something, but it's a lot of money to a person who's got nothing. So we do take that seriously, and it is something that we will also consider seriously from our side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We now move on to, I just want to check if we now have good party. Yes, thank you. You may come forward.
Good morning, and thank you, Chairperson and panel.
Just hold on. Just hold on. I think you were not here when we were reading out the House rules.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. All right. Do you have any objections in taking the oath?
No.
All right. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. May you please state your name and your designation at Good Party?
My name is Brett Heron, and I'm the Secretary General of the Good Party and member of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament.
Thank you very much. You may start with your presentation.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to pick up before I make my presentation on the comment you made around 10 Rand. The story we hear is a very prevalent and real story across Cape Town. I was in Mitchell's Plain recently where I met a disabled woman living in an RDP or B&G house who told me the same story, that she has to every night decide if if she can scrape together the money to buy 1 unit of electricity, and that allows her to boil a pot of water and then sit in darkness for the rest of the evening. But I would like to say, Chair, thank you for the opportunity to make these representations on behalf of good. When we read the Eskom multi-year price determination, the MYPD6 application, which is a revenue application for 2026, 2027, and 2028 financial years, and if what Eskom says in that application is factually correct, then the Eskom revenue shortfalls and debt crisis is partially caused by historical decisions made by NERSA. According to Eskom, their 2026 revenue requirements are a result of an accumulation of inadequate decisions made in the past and due to having to correct for the past. What is clear from the contents of this application is that our entire electricity supply regulator regime is in a crisis, and it is the systemic failures of our electricity supply regime that has partially brought us to this point. These systemic failures and the fact that our whole country is currently still captive to Eskom as a virtual sole supplier must be addressed as part of the outcome of the process, even though this process is not about the entire system. NERSA and Eskom will fail in their duties as state entities operating in a I've said this word a million times and I can't say it now. Developmental state, not to advise our government of the conflicts and complexities that legislation, policy, and international climate change commitments create. With respect, your duty also requires you to advise on how these complexities can be addressed in the best interests of a secure, affordable supply of electricity, a reduction in carbon emissions, and an increase in access to electricity as a basic service. The technical and bureaucratic conflicts and challenges are not burdens to be passed on to the end user. The expertise lies in the state supply of electricity and also in the state regulator of pricing. Your duty is to use that expertise to help our country navigate away from the patently absurd point that we have reached. Eskom is effectively asking for a 36.15% tariff hike, which threatens to devastate an already struggling population. Whatever decision is taken cannot ignore the economic and financial realities of our country and our people. The proposed 36.15 tariff hike is nothing short of a financial assault on the people of South Africa. Consider the consequences, the crushing impact on households and businesses. We are paying for failure. Either Eskom's failure to prudently manage its revenue, operations, and expansion, or NERSA's failure to help Eskom achieve revenue requirements over an expanded period of time without the financial shock of a massive cost of purchase hike for consumers. And this raises a question of fairness. South Africans already pay amongst the highest electricity prices in the world relative to income. Is it fair to ask consumers to pay even more without addressing the entire system's inefficiencies? The tariff hike will not be capped at 36.15%. That is the amount for direct users or direct customers of Eskom. The Eskom hike translates to a 43.55% increase for customers of municipalities. However, it does not stop there. There are multiple reforms and changes to the subsidy structure that will affect the most vulnerable in our society. The proposed time of use tariff reforms, for example, raise concerns about equity and feasibility. Low-income households and small businesses, for example, may face higher costs during peak hours due to limited flexibility in energy usage. Without clear regulatory oversight, vulnerable people, poor people in our country, could disproportionately bear the financial burdens. Then there's the unregulated municipal surcharges that are unfairly increasing residents' bills without transparency. With the municipal tariff projected to be 43.55%, what will the total be once the additional surcharges have been added? Section 16.2 of the Electricity Regulation Act states that a licensee may not charge a consumer any other tariff than those approved by the regulator. However, the Municipal Fiscal Powers Act allows municipalities to implement surcharges as long as they comply with the norms and standards furnished by the Minister of Finance. But there's one glaring omission or issue. The Minister of Finance has never determined those norms and standards. So without clear guidelines, municipalities can impose arbitrary surcharges without accountability or consistent oversight, leading to potential burdens on residents without any clear justification. This has already been seen, for example, in the City of Cape Town, that imposes additional unchecked costs, leaving residents in the dark about how fees are calculated or used. This lack of oversight undermines consumer protection and worsens financial burdens. Instead of prioritizing residents' affordability, the City of Cape Town has spent millions fighting NERSA for higher tariffs in the High Court, exacerbating the problem with opaque charges and policies. And this is a growing issue across municipalities across our country, deepening inequality rather than alleviating it. What makes this even more aggravating is that the ERA mandates the regulator and licensees to have consumer or end-user forums. Yet the municipalities charging these increased tariffs have no such mechanism, certainly not in the City of Cape Town. Where are the consumer or end-use forums? This is precisely the time we should be seeing properly constituted, funded forums making representations on behalf of residents the licensees serve. But they appear to be absent because they've never been properly implemented. And that's a failure by NERSA to require licensees to adhere to the law. This limits the public's voice when it comes to matters affecting their livelihoods and access to the basic right of electricity. At the heart of the issues is a legislative conflict that undermines consumer protections. The Electricity Regulation Act establishes NERSA as the regulator for electricity tariffs in South Africa, ensuring that there is a fair, transparent, and cost-effective pricing. It mandates national regulation of tariffs, including those set for Eskom, which are intended to protect consumers from unjust pricing and ensure affordability. Then there's the Municipal Finance Management Act, which supports municipal autonomy in managing local finances. It also requires compliance with national laws and oversight mechanisms. However, the Municipal Finance Management Act doesn't address the issue of surcharges in the context of electricity, creating a gap in clarity when municipalities impose additional charges. The Municipal Fiscal Powers Act gives municipalities the power to impose surcharges on electricity, which adds another layer to the pricing structure. However, the Act requires municipalities to follow prescribed norms and standards for surcharges, as I said. So these are subject to oversight and potential ministerial exemption, except the minister has not prescribed those norms and standards. The contradiction arises because the Municipal Fiscal Powers Act allows municipalities to impose surcharges independently of NERSA's regulations. There are several key considerations or contradictions that stem from conflicting mandates that need to be highlighted here. Firstly, the surcharge autonomy versus NERSA's oversight. The ERA centralizes tariff regulation under NERSA, while the Municipal Fiscal Powers Act grants municipalities significant autonomy to impose surcharges on top of regulated tariffs. This creates confusion and possible financial burdens for consumers, as surcharges may not be transparent or consistent with national pricing principles. Surely this was not the intention of the ERA. There's no point in NERSA being empowered to regulate the price of electricity if the Municipal Fiscal Powers Act allows municipalities to impose surcharges that are unregulated. Secondly, local versus national control. The Municipal Finance Management Act provides municipalities with the responsibility of financial management, but this sometimes conflicts with national regulation under the ERA, particularly in terms of tariff oversight. Municipalities may be incentivized to impose higher surcharges to generate revenue without aligning with the national goals of affordability and transparency. And lastly, absence of norms and standards. As I've indicated already, without clear norms and standards in the Municipal Fiscal Powers Act, municipalities could impose arbitrary surcharges, undermining both the financial management principles of the Municipal Finance Management Act and the tariff fairness goals of the Electricity Regulatory Act. What are the broader implications of the actual cost of this proposed tariff hike? The implications of Eskom's tariff hike are far-reaching and go beyond the cost of living. A 937% increase in tariffs from 2007 to 2024, compared to a 155% increase for inflation, shows the stark reality that electricity prices are outpacing the cost of living. For vulnerable communities already grappling with food inflation, unemployment, and housing insecurity, the tariff hike is a direct blow to their already fragile economic situation. Small businesses, the backbone of our economy, face higher operating costs and could lead to job cuts and closures. The ripple effect: consumers will pay higher prices, deepening inflation and choking economic recovery. According to the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, this threatens to reduce economic productivity, making it harder for us to make economic strides in this new era. Research from the Institute for Economic Justice points out that these types of hikes will exacerbate inequality, with wealthier households who have access to energy-saving technology like solar panels barely feeling the pinch, while poorer communities will bear the brunt. The South African Federation of Trade Unions warned that electricity costs have become a key driver of poverty for millions of people, forcing families to choose, as we've just heard, between basic necessities, food, healthcare, or energy. The growing divide between rich and poor is becoming increasingly entrenched. And this isn't just a financial burden, it's a social crisis. According to Eskom's own application, in large part as a consequence of historical underpricing and underinvestment, Eskom's current operational and financial challenges are placing a significant strain on the country's economy. And consumers will be worse off due to the impact of MYPD6 on inflation if these MYPD6 application is approved. Finally, and in conclusion, the challenges we face, Chairperson, are significant, but they're not insurmountable. Firstly, Eskom's proposed allowable revenue increase will cause a tariff hike that is unjustifiable in its current form. We need reform first. Secondly, legal contradictions allow stakeholders to get away with unjust actions, and there needs to be consistency. So we urge, in conclusion, Eskom, municipalities, and NERSA to prioritize the people they serve. South Africans deserve affordable, reliable electricity, not as a luxury, but as a basic right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Haron. I'm not sure if the members of the panel have any questions of clarity. Mr. Mkize.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks to Mr. Haron for the presentation. Excuse me. When I heard your statement regarding NERSA's failure, and I must point out that we're in public hearings to welcome also the pointing of such failures, because they will help us improve. But when you read the statement by Eskom, one may sometimes look at it as saying that NERSA has not given us what we've applied for, but has given us less, and now we want more. And then if it is like that, and today we're sitting here, there are issues of affordability. If less is still given, it means next year the statement will be amplified. Do you see that as really a failure from NERSA's side, because it says you must increase the tariff so that we are happy with you? I know that as a regulator, we are between the rock and the hard place. But if you may just clarify that, because we are on the path of improvement, and we'll appreciate. And then, as part of the government of the day, good party, what is your take on socialization of some of the costs that are included in the this tariff increase? And thirdly, I think that the issues of affordability have been, outlined here, and it's for all to see really that this is a challenge for poor people. I think I would also appreciate, maybe by way of submissions to NERSA, to look at maybe your specific proposal in alleviating the plight of the poor masses of our people. I am also appreciative of your comments on surcharges and other issues associated therewith. Again, would appreciate if that can be sent through, and also that maybe also talk also being part, as I said, being part of the government of the day, we also just to put it forward to the policymakers, noting that we play within the space whose perimeters have been set by law. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. You may respond, Mr. Heron.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I'm going to try and respond to all of those comments or questions. My point around the failure of NERSA is that it is what Eskom is saying in their application, that we are at this point because of historic decisions by NERSA not to grant, as you indicated correctly, the applications that they'd made for allowable revenue in previous years. And it's now culminated at the point where if Eskom does not want to burden the Treasury and the state with deficit and requests for subsidization from the state, then the allowable revenue that they need is the amount that we're currently at, which results in a 36.15% tariff hike. So, as I indicated in my opening statement, if that is correct, then I think the duty is for Eskom and NERSA, as the experts in the space, as I said, to address the systemic failures in the entire electricity supply regime in a way that we can resolve this alleged failure going forward. I understand and I completely accept and agree that we're between a rock and a hard place, because South Africans do not want the state to bail out Eskom when it has a deficit, but we also don't want to pay what Eskom needs in order to operate according to them. And when you read the MYPD6, or when I read it, there was a lot of attempt to place the blame for where we are now on the historical decisions of NERSA. Now, we can't undo those historical decisions. They've been made. And we're now at a point where we're faced with possibly a 36% increase from NERSA, and at municipal level, a 44% increase to those customers. And what I'm asking is that as part of this process, that the experts, I'm not an expert, yes, our party's in the government of national unity, but the expertise lies within the state regulator, the NERSA, and within Eskom currently, and they need to advise the Minister of Electricity as to how the electricity regime can be changed so that we don't constantly find ourselves in this crisis point. So I don't have the answer as to how you address the failure, but it's an alleged failure in the MYPD6. On the question of socialization in the application, if we do not, first of all, I mean the extent to which subsidization of poor households actually takes place for municipal customers, I think is questionable, and I think NERSA has a role to play in that space to make sure that those people those municipalities who receive the subsidy from the state in order to provide the free basic services are actually passing on those free basic services in an accessible way to their customers. Increasingly, the free basic services or the subsidized services are linked to the value of property values, and even houses that were built as basic as B&G, Breaking New Ground, or RDP houses are now breaching the thresholds that municipalities introduce for the introduction, or for the right to free basic electricity. On the proposals on how we alleviate the impact on the poor, I think I don't want to. I try to emphasize that I see this box within which NERSA has to operate, and the box is complicated by legislation that has got nothing to do with NERSA. And at some point we have to decide, and the court case that will take place between NERSA and the City of Cape Town may give us some direction as to how as to the level of authority that NERSA has with regards to regulating tariffs. Because if the ERA says that NERSA must regulate tariffs for all licensees, and a licensee through another piece of legislation is entitled to charge a surcharge over which you have no control, then I don't understand what the role of the ERA is and NERSA's regulatory role is, because municipalities can basically charge whatever they like, so to speak, under the Municipal Fiscal Powers Act. And so we need to have decision makers, and yes, I can raise it in my space in the Government of National Unity, as a member of the Government of National Unity, as a member of the clearinghouse mechanism in the government. Consequences, but I really would like the experts who are NERSA and ESCOM to also raise these issues.
Thank you and for your time. We look forward to the further information that you are going to submit in the next 7 days. Thank you very much for your time. We now move on. I've got the name of Shahida Meniers. Okay, may you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the information, the evidence you're going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
All right. May you please state your name and your designation at NUMSA?
My name is Shahida Meniers, and I'm an official of NUMSA, Regional Education Officer.
I can't hear you. Can you please speak on the mic?
Shahida Meniers, Regional Education Officer for NUMSA in Western Cape.
Okay, you may start with your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm representing NUMSA, the largest trade union in South Africa, and also to say that we do have members at ESCOM, so we are a recognized union at ESCOM. NUMSA herewith reject ESCOM's revenue application and the increase of 36% and 12% and 9% for the next 3 financial years. We say that this will have a disastrous impact on the working class, and I think earlier on some of the submissions from the members of community was heartbreaking to listen to, that you must decide whether you're going to buy food or whether you're going to buy electricity. As the...
Sorry, Chair. I just want to ask us to take the presentation to the other laptop so that the audience can see. Where is it? Can you take it? From your laptop to mine.
Okay.
Let's do this. You go back.
I have not said.
Okay.
We say that the increases would lead to and worsening the unemployment rate. I think we all can see that there's more people, look like there's more people looking for a job than there's actually people employed. It's really sad. This will also lead to more deindustrialization. I don't know this laptop. Sorry.
You are delaying us there.
The municipal arrear debt shows that really electricity is unaffordable. In 2014 March, it was 2.6 billion, and now in October 2024, it's standing at 90 billion. It's the electricity tariffs is also linked to food poverty. As I say, it was earlier mentioned by community members. So it's one of the highest costs for our households, and even in factories, the bosses must make decisions whether to still open the factory gates or what must happen. The Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Institute calculated that in October 2024, after spending on electricity and transport, workers with a family of up to 4, they will only have 547 rand and 94 cents to spend per person per month on food. This is well below the food poverty line of 796 rand. The national crisis of unemployment and deindustrialization, there's retrenchments taking place all over the country, and some of the companies, big companies, is Glencore, Mercedes-Benz SA, ArcelorMittal SA, as well as Ford Motor Company, South Africa. Here in the Western Cape, we lost members at Gabriel Shock Absorbers during the Section 189 or the retrenchment negotiations. The company cited that with the high electricity costs, they can no longer keep their doors open. So there was a loss of almost 200 workers, and if we listen to the communities, one person is one too many to lose a job. There's PAX foundries, there's gate casting, and when it comes to engineering sector, we do find that employers, there's a main agreement that would say that this is the minimum wage rate for certain grades, and employers would rather opt to ask for an exemption not to pay those increases, because they also cite that they, according to the costing, the electricity went up so much, and when it comes to profits, they hardly make any profits. So we reject the 35 billion rand increase in primary energy cost from 93 billion to 128 billion, as this is designed to allow suppliers to continue profiting from lucrative contracts with Eskom, while the working class is forced to carry costs with expensive tariff hikes. The coal costs, we say, are also exorbitant, and this is Eskom's largest cost item. In 2019, the equity injections conditions was to bring coal costs under control. Yearly average price increase in coal costs has been above inflation. The annual coal costs increased by billions, while coal burn volumes has decreased by 12 million tons between 2014 and 2023. Prices increased by a staggering 25 billion from 38 billion in financial year 2014 to 2015 to 63 billion in financial year 2022 to 2023. Given the above, the demand to increase coal costs again by another 21 billion is a staggering 30% increase in a single year, which is outrageous and unjustified. The Duva-Seriti South 32 coal contract, for instance, 104% increase in coal price per ton, and this translates to a cost of 8.4 billion rand over 4 years. 35 coal supply agreements have been negotiated or renegotiated, and it awarded lucrative contracts which the working class and the poor are expected to pay for with this tariff increases. NUMSA calls on NERSA to reject the exorbitant and unreasonable coal cost increase of 21 billion rand, which will see the cost of increasing from the 72 billion to 93 billion rand. We are of the firm view that NERSA must allow only prudent and efficient costs which cannot exceed 75 billion, which will translate to an increase of 3 billion for the 2025-2026 financial year. Eskom's refusal to manage primary energy costs efficiently and prudently, together with the broader neoliberal policy environment, is behind this application for expensive tariff hikes. We continue to reject the neoliberal full cost recovery model for electricity provision, and it completely undermines the goal to achieve universal access to electricity. We are calling for a competitive electricity tariff to power the economy and to power our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You saved us 1 minute. Thank you so much for your presentation. I would like to check if there are any questions from the members. Yes, starting with Mr. Pokula. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, can you just give us your insights as to how you've decided that the coal cost must increase from 72 to 75? Like, so what metrics did you use there? Thank you.
Mr. Mkize.
I'm partly covered by the chairperson of NERSA. I would just like to then talk to the issue of canvassing the Eskom branch of NUMSA, if the stance that you are presenting here has already been canvassed with them or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Advocate Stole. Mr. Mane. All right, thank you. You may answer those two questions, ma'am.
As I said at the beginning of the speech, or the input, that we do have members within Eskom, and obviously we do our own research. We've got the research unit, and the information that we have shared here, that is coming from our research unit in NUMSA, together with our members in ESCOM. On the canvassing of branches, we have worked with our shop stewards in ESCOM to obviously that the information is not that we have thumbs up. We've got it from shop stewards, and by sharing what they know, that is how serious they are, that they can see that ESCOM is in a crisis and that there must be measures to save ESCOM. So that is my my answer to the canvassing of branches. We have ESCOM companies, we don't call it branches, but that is the canvassing. It's coming from our members that's worried about their jobs as well. If there is a crisis in the company, there might be later job losses as well.
The information on the reduction of the coal costs, are you going to submit it later?
We will submit to you, yeah.
All right, in the next 7 days.
Yes. Okay.
All right, thank you very much for your
All
time.
right.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, we move on to the next presenter, which is the members of the public group presentation again. And I have the names of Elizabeth Daniels, Flori Kabambi, as well as Dorothy Martin. Do you have any objections, ma'am, in taking the oath?
Yes.
Do you have an objection?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, may you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
The truth, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Please state your name and the community that you come from or the organization you represent.
My name is Elizabeth Daniels, and I'm coming from the community of Tafelsig in Mitchells Plain.
All right, thank you very much. May I go to the next one? All right, do you have any objections in taking the oath, Mama?
No. No.
Speak on the, okay. All right, may you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
All right, please state your name and the community you're coming from.
I'm Dorothy Martin. I represent Eastridge, Mitchells Plain.
All right, thank you. Shall we go to the next one? Okay. Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
All right. Please state your name and the community that you are representing today.
My name is Flori Chimbalanga. I'm from Village of Hope, which is a non-profit organization who advocate for women and girls' rights.
All right. The surname you said is the, because I don't think.
The Flori Kabambi.
Oh, Kabambi. Okay. All right.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Elizabeth Daniels. I'm from the Mitchells Plain community, Tafelsig. As this increase, too many to mention. We, the out-of-pocket community of Tafelsig, with rarely any money to spend at month end. SASSA pensioners, unemployed, single-parent households, and just the overall poor household. Make the following suggestions and proposal. If this electricity increase is inevitable, then ESCOM could assist us by subsidizing us or installing a basic solar panel system, controlling by batteries or inverter per household, so that we may use the natural God-given sunlight for our use as a family. Majority of our people cannot afford the tariff increase proposed by Eskom. How does that feel? You feel? How do you feel when making these difficult decisions almost every day? Did you ever stand in a feeding line at a community kitchen thinking, if I get something, I can at least buy some electricity? How does that make you feel? How do you feel when making these difficult decisions almost every day? Thank you.
Hi, good day everyone. What I implemented here is a youth struggle in our community. There's a lack of communications in the community. They haven't got food, and electricity is so high that we can't afford. I'm a pensioner, but half of my money is going to the electricity. I must choose. I got two choices: rather buy food or rather buy electricity. But my first choice is to buy electricity. There's hardly food, money to buy food. We as diabetics and chronic people, we must eat. Sometimes there's no money to go buy medication, and that make us more sick and sick. We had to go to the hospital that they can't even help us, and some of the pensioners they pass on because of a lack of food. There's nothing what's going on in the community, and it's so sad if children come and knock at the door and ask for food. What can you say to the children? I haven't got. That's my response to the children. I haven't got. I did ask God, what can I do for the children? What can you do for us? Isn't there help for us? What is our community going through? There's a huge lack, and it's so sad for us. And sometimes we as parents, we cry and we feel that pain. We are so what is our children going through, and what we are going through.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity that is given to us as a Village of Hope, which we have so many funding. We think that the increase, which the proposal that increase electricity tariff increase will be affecting negativity on people, and especially their families and the budget, and especially after the COVID, things are never be the same. And the things that we are not the same financially, people are earning differently also, but majority of people are struggling with the electricity for now, especially after the COVID. And just like what we had earlier, when you buy electricity for 50 rand, you get like 15 units, which lasts you probably like 2-3 days. And that is the strength people are having right now. But now if you can increase, you're going to see how the struggle is going to be. And beside that, we have also the economic impact on the household. I'm sure most people they can feel that affecting them in terms of how they're going to manage their household. And then another thing also that people complain about is the current challenges we're having now. Because for now, people are not even able to afford life. But now, if you begin to increase, how it's going to be, it means it's going to be more worse than that now. The people also complain about the price increase, which will be very much worsen if it can be happen. And we're struggling to pay for the basics needs like food or school fees and healthcare, whatever, or transport. Because once we increase the power of the electricity, there's a byproduct also comes to increase, like transport. Because when electricity goes up, food goes up, petrol goes up, everything goes up. This is the concern that people are having, and they say the price goes up because people decide now to see what can we do, either buy food or buy electricity. But what about the danger that comes if you choose not to have a power? And especially as a women and girls, I'm sure they are most affected in our community. Those are the issues that now you need to look at before you make a decision or find a decision to see how this is going to affect women and girls, especially. And another thing that we talk about is the even for the children the kid to study, it can become a problem if there's not enough electricity. If you cannot afford to pay electricity, they're going to study in the dark. And beside that also, even cooking, people are forced to use probably the charcoal or wood or something which is not safe for people to use. Please, if you can look at that also, it's going to be also much appreciated. And of course, this is sometimes people have to use the alternative way, which sometimes is not safe. Please look at that. And they say, the other things we say, they say, please consider how this increase will push the family like mine or like our community family even further into hardship. We ask to find ways to reduce cost of the electricity so that we don't find ourselves to choose between keeping the light on or feeding our families. I think those are the issues that probably all of us were in the same boat. But we're just asking you, please, before you consider the last decision, would you look at all this matter? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. We've heard you, and the panel members don't have any questions. I think the messages were very clear. Thank you. Thank you. Right, we move on now to have a presentation from BOSA. We've got the name of Roger Solomons. Do we have Roger Solomons today? Okay, if he's not here, we move on to the next presenter. Members of the public, I've got one person, is Isaac de Jong. Okay. Okay, Mr. de Jong, are you gonna be able to take off your cap? Thank you. Thank you so much. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Please state your name and the community that you are coming from.
My name is Pastor Isaac de Jong. I'm coming from the community Heideveld, under Ward 44, representing different communities in the surrounding areas with for different faith religions, supporting running feeding schemes and supporting communities in the vulnerable groups.
All right, thank you very much. Please commence with your presentation.
Good day, Chairperson, and each and everyone listening, and board of NERSA. It's a privilege today to be in support of ourselves and of our communities. You know, the first thing when we talk as human beings, we must first go to God. There's a scripture in Proverbs 14:31 that says, "He who reproaches the poor despises his maker, but he who honors his maker gives mercy to the poor." So, NERSA, you are sitting at the position where you're going to look to the end user who needs mercy at this stage. And in doing that, you will honor your maker. Further on to proceed is that I don't know how ESCOM did present the reason for their proposal for the 36% increase that they want to impose. If it is municipalities that it's in depth, NERSA should take into consideration why are the end user now being, can I say, blackmailed, targeted, handcuffed, imprisoned. That in the same space, I also like to add that if this increase is going to proceed, there are already financial years, year ends and budgets work out. I'm talking only on the city of Cape Town as myself representing the vulnerable groups in the city. So that budget that's already been improved was decisions was made without knowing that ESCOM is going to pull the stunt. This is a stunt of dictatorship. It's a stunt of keeping the poor at the poorer states, and also not thinking straight. Because by imposing this hike, you will effect the current human being, you will affect the unborn child. The child is maybe still needs to be, the lady still needs to give birth, because undernourishment will be one of the factors. With electricity hikes, you will touch education, poverty, will touch everything. You will also, within the last meetings we had in communities, we've talked about this issue, and the people bluntly said, Pastor, as hulle dit gaan opsit, dan gaan ons die cables ver steel. So just bear in mind, if you embrace what Eskom is putting on the table, you will get more crime, you will get more unemployment, there will be serious protests in different communities in the whole of South Africa. Another point I want to touch on is that on feeding schemes, for myself running 3 feeding schemes, we use gas and we use electricity. Now you can imagine if we have in areas over 200 children, except adults standing in that line. Our gas is done, we have to use electricity. How many of that underprivileged children and families who are depending on that feeding scheme we won't be able to feed? Not because we do not have the ingredients, we do have, but we do not have the finance to buy electricity. And it's such a sad state, because now you have to make that decision, and you're going to make the decision based on Eskom's plans that they put forward to you. Like I said again, if it is municipalities owing Eskom, they need to address that issue. They cannot push the pressure down on the end user. They cannot put the pressure down as we living on the Cape Flats and in the whole of South Africa to be like burdened with this high tariff increase. So you board, you are sitting at a space where even the Heavenly Father is looking down on you. You need to decide, will you reproach your marker, or you need to decide, will you give mercy to the end user? So from my side, representing different communities, you really need to take, as a regulator board, take it in action. You know, in our areas on the Cape Flats, we got regulators that is taxi regulators. So that regulators, when taxis come in, how they load, and they look to everything. Right, and then when there's a meeting for the taxi association, we bring the regulators in. Now they will give their overview. No, we can only load so many passengers. This van must, but it's in the interest of the user. So nurse board, I urge you and I ask you, when you make that decision, think of the unemployed families. Think of the mother that's maybe going to be that's going to give birth. Think of the hospitals. Think of each and every institution, because if decision making, and if there's a clause that you need to fill in within the space of the government, I've heard one of the members said there that you move in the perimeters which government gives you. So if you move in the perimeters, looking to legislations and to laws, you have to take in consideration the end user. Take in consideration the resident of South Africa. May God bless you.
Thank you. I don't know, Mr. Pokula, if you have any questions or comment. Thank you very much, Mr. Mkize.
No, I'm covered. Thank you very much. We don't want to be on the wrong side of God. We can afford to be on the wrong side of God.
Thank you for opposing Eskom.
Thank you very much. All right, we now move on to the next presentation. It's another group presentation from the members of the public. I have 3 names here. It's Alana Mini, Kashin France, and Anne Baron. Anne Baron. Alana Mini, Kishena France. May you please raise your right hand, ma'am? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth? Ma'am.
The whole truth.
Thank you. Please state your name and the community you are representing today.
and Baron from Hillview.
All right, thank you. May we go to the next one, please? Right, ma'am, may you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and the community you are representing today.
I'm Alana Mini. I'm a pensioner of Eastridge Mitchells Plain.
All right, thank you very much. You may start with your presentation.
Goeiemiddag almal. Ons as 'n gemeenskap van Hillview is bekommerd oor die hoë tariewe van elektrisiteit wat gaan styg. In ons gemeenskap kan klaar nie bekostig om elektrisiteit te koop nie. In ons gemeenskap leef ons onder die broodlyn. Ons het 'n hoë werkloosheidsyfer in die gemeenskap. Mense steun op toelaag van die regering. Ons moet klaar probeer om kop bo water te hou om te leef as 'n arm gemeenskap. En ons as 'n gemeenskap is bekommerd, hoe gaan ons oorleef met die vermeerdering van die hoë tariewe van elektrisiteit? Van ons families sukkel om vir die families voedsel te voorsien. Die toelaag van die regering is klaar min om van te leef en om voedsel te koop. Hoe gaan ons bekostig die hoë tariewe van elektrisiteit? En hoe gaan ons wat klaar sukkel om kos te koop? Baie van ons in die gemeenskap en families steun op voedingsskemas in die gemeenskap. Ons baie in die gemeenskap steun op die voedingsskemas en ons wil weet, as 'n gemeenskap van Hillview, hoe gaan ons oorleef as die toelaag, ek bedoel, dat die vermeerdering van elektrisiteit gaan vermeerder. Dankie.
Thank you. Please proceed, ma'am. Proceed, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, the Board of Nurses. Today, I speak about the hardships we as pensioners have to endure on a daily basis. The financial burden of day-to-day living expenses is crippling my household, and any increase would make it even worse. I do not receive free electricity because I don't qualify. This means that it's a daily struggle to make ends meet. The continuous anxiety to decide between buying electricity and buying food is taking a toll on my well-being. I'm forced to beg for assistance from neighbors who are also caught up in this vicious cycle of poverty. My situation feels hopeless. We get a paltry yearly increase for our pension grant. Is it not a concern that ESCOM employees get yearly increases? And we as the aged live on the brink of poverty. Where is the fairness in this? Not to mention the increase that ESCOM wants to ensure a stable revenue for them. How does that weigh up? I have a life of despair. I live a life of despair, not by choice. And if ESCOM is allowed an increase of this nature, it will surely mean darker days ahead. And my plea today is, you as a regulator, really uphold your end to ensure fairness for our consumers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there's just one question from my colleague, Ms. Sitole.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks for the presentation. I heard you saying in your presentation that you do not qualify for FBE. Do you mind sharing with us as to why? Are you not qualifying?
Can you just repeat that question again, Miss?
you do not qualify for the free basic electricity.
Yes.
FBE. And
Yes.
I just thought that maybe, if you don't mind, do you want to share with us as to why you are told that you do not qualify?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The reason I don't qualify for the free units, because my property value is over 500,000 rand, and that's the reason I don't qualify. Does that clear up your question?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for the presentation. We appreciate it. I think also the CEO is clarified on the issue of the criteria used by the City of Cape Town, looking at the value of the property and those that do not qualify as a result. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, we now move on to the next presentation. Again, is the presentation from the members of the public. We've got the name of Charmaine Jones as well as Aisha Daniels.
Okay.
All right, Mama.
Yes.
Are you alone, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
Oh, all right. May you please raise your right hand, ma'am? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Please state your name and the community you are representing.
I'm Charmaine Jones of East Ridge Mitchell's Plain.
All right, you may proceed, Mama.
Okay. I must say the high increase of the electricity is going to cripple me financially. Because I'm a pensioner, I have to buy electricity, pay my rates, medicine and all that. And I've got a husband that is blind, semi-blind, and I have to have electricity on because he can't see properly in the dark. So the increase of the electricity is going to cripple me. I'm unemployed. I'm a pensioner, and I've got 2 kids that's unemployed, and I have to look after my husband. The problem is, I also don't get free electricity because, like the previous person said, because of the property that increases. That's why I don't get free electricity. What the problem is, I used to get free electricity, but because of that problem, I can't get. That is why the increase is going to cripple me financially. Sometimes I don't even have food on the table because I have to consider my husband. If I don't have electricity, how is he going to see in the dark? So I would ask the nurse to consider the poorest of poor, that they don't have enough financial need. I have to go to the debt collector. If I can't manage, because I have, say for that 4,200 that we've got, I have to pay, say, 250 rand per day for electricity. I've got the municipality debt, and I have to pay, I only get 6 units for that 50 rand, and that don't last me till, say from the morning till 12 at night, then it's darkness. I can't afford to pay more tariffs for the electricity. Please consider me when you make that decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mama. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, we then move on to the next group presentation. It's Caroline Morudi, Neville van der Berg, Zakira Adams, and Zaibonisa September. May you please raise your right hand, ma'am? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and the community you're coming from.
My name is Caroline Marudi, and I'm from Nova Park.
Okay, thank you. Can we go to the next one, please, before you start? Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir. May you
Good
please
morning
raise
to the Honourable Board.
Good morning. Because I've already greeted him. He wanted to hear the members of the board. So maybe he wanted to hear all the voices of the members of the board. Yes. Good morning, Sam. May you please raise your right hand, Baba? Aye. Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
All right. Please state your name and the community that you are coming from.
I'm from Nova Park and from the Cape Flats. And my name is Neville Khoisan van der Berg, and I'm a single pensioner and a long-time community activist from Nova Park.
Okay, thank you very much. Shall we go to the next presenter? May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, the truth.
Thank you. Please state your name, Mama.
My name is Ebonisa September. I'm from Nova Park, from the Cape Flats.
All right, thank you very much. You may start with your presentations.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning, members. I am Caroline Marudi, who resides at number 66 Evergreen Road in Nova Park. We are a household of 4 people. The tariffs became very expensive, so I can't cope because I am a pensioner. At times, I had to make a fire for cooking and water. What cripples me more is that we have a portable electric box with in my husband's possession. He took it wherever he goes. Sometimes he is not coming home, and that leaves us in the dark for days. Someday I had to make fire, and is also a health risk. I wish there was a better way for me to go. I thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Shall we go to the next one?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, nurse. I'm Zabonisa September. I'm coming from Nova Park, a mother from 5 kids. Currently, since the city of Cape Town installed the new boxes, my finance and the electrical is crippling me. Eventually, I have to think about light every day. I'm buying 1,000 rand for 2 weeks. It doesn't keep me up for the whole month. Eventually, I have to think about my oldest daughter. She's in college. I need to provide for taxi fee. Eventually, sorry, it's so hard. It's really hard. It's crippling us. I can't even keep up feeding them and putting food on the table. I'm a young mother and my husband is working alone, and provide for them, to give them breakfast in the morning. I can't do that anymore because I need to keep a light in the house for them. I need to think and consider what 200 is not enough even for 2 days for me. I recently bought a house. I need to pay a bond. I'm scared that I can't even pay my bond because I need to think about electrical. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you, dear. I have come here this morning to raise electricity increases of tariffs. Voice and understand what my experiences are. Electrical price. It's imperative that the members of the board understand really that it is basically impossible for any person to be able to live a healthy, decent life with the current cost of living in South Africa on a grant of 2,180 Rand. The severe physiological impact it has on an older person in need of adequate nutrition, housing, healthcare can be detrimental. All these fears and anxieties of unpaid municipal accounts, coupled with the threats of evictions and unconsented debt recovery from the city of Cape Town. I am going to give you a peek, if you don't mind, at my current budget with my basic income of 2,180 Rand. I just like to repeat, this is my basic needs and expenditure, and costs me way more than the income I receive from SASSA. Housing and municipal accounts: rental 135 Rand, water 150, electricity 260 Rand. Basic needs: food 1,000 Rand, that's per month. Burial policy 150 Rand, housekeeping 200 Rand. Priorities: transport 200 Rand, health and wellness 200 Rand, amounts to 2,295 Rand. And then of course there's the basic maintenance and replacements of appliances, clothing, blankets, and durable basic living need. Means I need to go into debt. The municipal debts are escalating with unexplainable accounts. This is my basic needs and expenditure. It is important, as I am totally freaked out on this day, to first cover municipal debt and ensure food in the house for my wellness and security. Please take note. The slightest increase in the electricity tariffs will be harmful and detrimental to myself. It will also further impoverish the community around me and put older people like me at risk of exploitation. I thank you for this space provided for me to present my case this morning, and I thank the board for the opportunity to make my voice heard, and hope that it would have some impact on how to make electricity accessible and affordable to the most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your voice is certainly heard. You made your voice heard today. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. We would like to move on to the next presenter, and the presenter is from Reason Life Workshop Center. We've got the name of Mazwi Ndikolo. All right. Do you have any objection in taking the oath?
No.
Pendla paembokweni, so that we can record what you say. All right. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
All right. Please state your name and the position that you hold at Reason Life Worship Center.
I am Mazwi Ndikolo, and I am from SAFC and Reason Life Worship Center, the pastor at the Reason Life Worship Center, and activists at the SAFC for the environment. And my presentation I was at SAFC, so my focus will be on the community of Kailicha as well. And my focus will be on 6 impacts of tariff increases on the unemployed. Eskom's proposed tariff increases are likely exacerbate
the challenges faced by unemployed individuals, primarily by increasing the cost of basic living. The direct and indirect impacts include: 1. Higher electricity cost. Unemployed individuals who rely on limited financial support or grants will find it harder to afford electricity. This reduces disposable income for essential needs such as food, healthcare, and transportation. For households relying on free basic electricity, strict municipality criteria often exclude many eligible individuals, leaving them further disadvantaged. 2. Prepaid metering challenges. Prepaid consumers must pay upfront for electricity, making tariff increases immediately impactful, especially when they have no steady income. Eskom's proposed tariff increases significantly contribute to increased social vulnerability among the unemployed. This happens through a cascade of interconnected effects. 3. Proposed increase will worsen energy poverty. Many unemployed individuals already face energy poverty, where they cannot afford sufficient electricity for basic needs. Higher tariffs exacerbates this, forcing households to prioritize energy over food, healthcare, or education, leading to heightened vulnerability. 4. Erosion of social nets. Social grants, such as South Africa's Child Support Grant or Disability Grant, are already stretched thin. Tariff increases reduce their effectiveness, leaving the unemployed with fewer resources to cope. 5. Increased mental health strain. Financial pressure can lead to stress, anxiety, and depression, deepening the psychological impact of unemployment and reducing resilience in dealing with other challenges. 6. Barriers to social mobility. Unemployed individuals have more difficulty in improving their circumstances as rising energy costs limit their ability to access job opportunities, e.g., via transport and online job applications, or invest in small home-based economic activities. These effects above cumulatively entrenched cycles of poverty, making it even harder for unemployed individuals to escape their precarious circumstances. In closing, Madam Chair, the affordability crisis is worsening, but the responsible government agents are quiet, or rather absent. The Electricity Regulation Act mandates NESA's responsibilities, which include facilitating universal access to electricity. If it is not affordable, then how is it accessible? Access to energy needs to be included as a basic right in the Constitution. Some of us in this room will agree with me that there is a growing disconnect between ESCOM and electricity users at many levels. Communities and municipalities with a low revenue base simply cannot afford ESCOM electricity increases. I therefore say no to MYPD6 application by ESCOM, and I thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation and the concerns that you raised and your recommendations. We thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. All right, we now move on to the next presenter. Is the group presentation from Hanover Park, Back to Work Zonke. Hanover Park, do we have them? Hanover Park, Back to Work Zonke. Is it you only? Because we've got a number of them. Aloma
Only 3.
Matthews, Sophia, Maria, Patience, as well as Jacobs. Okay. All right. May you then step forward, ma'am, so that, okay. May you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
The whole truth, yes.
All right. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Maria Kupusemi. I'm from Hanover Park, Back to Work.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to the next one. All right, please come closer to the mic. All right, do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name.
I'm Suwaiba Patience, representing Hanover Park, Back to Work.
Thank you very much. Okay, do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
So help me God.
Huh? Come closer to the
Yes, I do.
Okay. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Jubaira Jacobs. I'm from Hanover Park, Back to Work.
Thank you. You may start with your presentations then.
Good day. I'm Jubaira Jacobs, a 58-year-old female. I'm a chronic patient and I'm unemployed. I reside at 115 Ryberg Road, Hanover Park. I love to bake, but due to electric tariffs, I had to put my geyser off. Twice a week I do washing. I need electricity for things I love, and it's a daily need. Watching the meter box is a family activity. Grandchild come down and say, Ma, there's only 2 units. They must restart. I feel it's my responsibility and not hers. If electricity is a need, and it will be a better life. Switch to gas for cooking to save units. Where gas runs out, I'm forced to cook on a 2-plate stove, which is plan B. It cripples me. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As a granny of 2 grandchildren that I'm looking after since my son passed away, it is getting very difficult to cope with the daily tariffs. I also invested in a gas stove, but as you know, gas don't last long, and once that's done, you have to worry again about electricity. And I really think we are really going back to the dark ages, because people are starting to make fire again and cooking on a fire outside, and it's very dangerous, especially if you have minors at home. And also when the gas is done, it's worry about electricity. You must decide every day. It's a hassle between buying bread or buying electricity. And most people that is in debt, they buy 50 rand and then half of that goes to their debts. And what do they have still? And you have to buy every day. It's the same story every day. And that's also why people get strokes and things, because this is a very stressful period for everyone. So I would like just to stress and thank Nurses Board for giving us the opportunity and the platform to raise our concerns and to take just everything into account. Thank you.
Good day, everybody. I'm a single, unemployed parent residing in the Hanover Park area as a backyard dweller. Living in this red zone don't even stress me like my electricity problem. Electricity has become my first priority in my household, and it cripples me majorly, and I'm already living from hand to mouth. It affects my children's well-being, such as less cooked meals, doing homework in the dark, washing in a bucket because they are only allowed to use one kettle. I mean hygiene. They are deprived of making and baking a sweet treat at night, which it was my daughter's quality time spent in the kitchen. It became worse when my FBE were reduced from 60 units to 25. My stress-free electricity week became a few days. However, I have inquired the matter and found that I'm still above the average rate of receiving 60 FBE units, but nothing has changed. Then again, the poor electricity services that we receive in our area is beyond. For a simple trip switch or a faulty electricity box, we have to wait days or sometimes weeks on end. That still leaves us in the dark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation and your time, and for you sharing, your plights at the community level. We thank you for your time. Thank you. We now going to move on to the next presenter, and that is Proportional Representative Councillor Tammy Jackson. Do we have Tammy Jackson? If Tammy Jackson is not here, shall we go back to BOSA Ayanda? This is the last chance that we are giving BOSA. And this one is?
Bossa.
Okay.
Good morning. It's Bossa.
Just hold on.
Sure. I just wanted to correct Madam Chair. It's Bossa for Bold One South Africa.
What is it?
Bold One South Africa.
Okay.
Bossa.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, it's the truth. Waarheid only.
Okay. Please state your name and your designation at BOSA.
Sure. At Bossa, my name is Roger Solomons, Bossa, and I am the representative for the organization.
Okay. Please proceed with your presentation.
Good morning, goeiemorgen, molweni, salam. Thank you, Madam Chair. We appreciate the opportunity to present our submission as Bossa. And our submission is dubbed as We Say No submission. We are saying no. We are saying no to electricity hikes. We are saying no, and we reject the audacity of Eskom to further punish our already suffering households in the Western Cape and the Cape Flats. We are saying no as Bossa. We are saying no to profits before people and our pensioners in the Cape Flats. Madam Speaker, we really appreciate this initiative and the session, and we hope that it's not a tick box exercise, but we really genuinely take public participation very, very, very seriously. So we hope that our submission and our comments and our contribution to this discussion will be taken genuinely as we say no. We know that careful consideration needs to be taken by NERSA with regards to the audacity by Eskom and their application to increase the tariff hikes. We know that this will have an economic impact, especially on our low-income households, especially on Oma Julies in the Cape Flats and Mati Yesi in Langa. It will impact them. And how dare Eskom even consider increasing the tariffs at a time such as this? It will not just have an economic impact, but it will also impact food security and health. We know that many of our households, in order for their fridges to work, they need electricity. And the fridges don't just store and keep food fresh, but also medication. We also know that some of our households need electricity to survive and live on their oxygen pumps as they are ill. How dare Eskom have the audacity to punish our people on the Cape Flats and the Western Cape and prioritize profit? It will also impact the long-term debt accumulation, because we know that our households are suffering to keep up just to pay the electricity bill of Eskom. And they have no mercy. They do not care. They will come and just cut off your electricity. Yes, they've got the mandate and the job. But our irritation with Eskom is that, yes, they want to increase the tariff hikes, but they are so useless when you contact them to come and reconnect, or you contact them to come and fix the faults. Some of these officials of Eskom purely don't care, but yet they have the audacity to come and say that they want to increase our electricity hikes. It will also impact the education and access to digitization of our school kids, because they will need to charge their laptops, charge their iPads, charge their phone. Now mom, dad or grandma says, no, please switch off, the electricity is too high. Immediately we are blocking those kids from accessing the digitization or access to education. And we are saying no as Bold One South Africa. In our submission, which we've already submitted, will impact us, and we hope that, Madam Chairperson, you will follow and read through our submission. But these are just the main three that I've mentioned. So as Eskom, what we are recommending and what we are saying is purely 4 recommendations, but ultimately it is to strengthen the accountability of Eskom. People do not trust Eskom anymore. In fact, on the streets, Cape Flats, they don't refer to Eskom, as ex-dom. That is what they refer Eskom to, ex-dom. What is ex-dom doing now? So there's completely mistrust from the public, and it's because of mismanagement, of alleged corruption. And we are saying that, number one, Eskom must prove to the public, prove to South Africans that they will improve the accountability within Eskom. Secondly, we are saying that with Eskom, for this reason, Eskom needs to establish a public accessible oversight mechanism within Eskom. So to improve the accountability, they need to establish this within Eskom, and we're saying Eskom must report directly to National Treasury. Eskom must every 2-3 months report to South Africans, how did they spend their money, where did the money go to, every single line item. We want a quarterly report by Eskom to South Africans to assist us to gain our trust and make sure we support Eskom and not ex-dom. Second proposal as Bold One South Africa, we are saying consider staggering the increase of these tariff hikes. It is a huge impact, 40%, just like that gwa. No mercy, no care. We say stagger the increase, phase it bit by bit. Let us as households and small businesses adjust to the new increases. Thirdly, we are saying Eskom needs to do a lot better in enhancing and improving the subsidies for low-income households. We need to do a lot better, or Eskom needs to do a lot better to protect the most vulnerable, especially our pensioners. Lastly, we are asking or proposing that Eskom needs to be serious about incentivizing renewable energy adoption, thereby reducing the reliance on Eskom. So we want Eskom to be a bit more serious about it, and they should be more serious about incentivizing those that are choosing to go off the grid to help the reliance on Eskom currently. So this is our submission as boss, Madam Chair, and together with your colleagues, we say thank you very much for considering our We Say No submission. Pansi Eskom, pansi, dankie.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you. Are there any questions from the members? Okay. Fine. I think everybody has had the message loud and clear.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. We are going to take a break now for 10 minutes. Just to come back, and we just need that break because we pushed it this morning. And then when we come back, we're going to give Eskom the opportunity to respond to all of the issues that were raised in the past 2 days in these hearings, and also try to touch on the issues that affect the communities. As you have seen that the majority of the people that were here, which is also a good thing for us, irrespective of the location of the venue, as people complained, but at least there were communities that came, which is very important for all of us to hear what their issues are as we are considering this application. So we will give you the opportunity, and we hope that you will also touch on the issues that they have raised. Shall we then break for 10 minutes and then come back here? The time is now 11:26. If we can be here, say at least by 25 to 12, that will be good. Thank you very much. Please settle down and close the door. Edith, if you can kindly close the door for us. I would like to give you a chance to take your seats, please. All right, we are reconvening after a tea break, and we are at the point where we are going to give the applicant an opportunity to respond to the communities of Cape Town, the stakeholders that are in Cape Town, to the issues that they've raised with regards to the application. ESCOM is ready, and I'm sure that they will touch on all of the issues that you wanted ESCOM to take into consideration in this application, and we will also take the input that ESCOM is going to provide into consideration, as well as NERSA, in taking a final decision on this matter. I would like then to invite Mr. Kasim to lead ESCOM as we have it in the program. Mr. Kasim, everything that you were saying yesterday in the afternoon and this morning, as we indicated that everything is recorded here, you were under oath all along, and the oath that you've taken yesterday still applies today. The only ones that we are going to swear in is I think there's only one colleague of yours. Yes. All right, that is fine. If you can still proceed with the understanding that the oath that you have taken yesterday still applies.
Good morning, Chair. Yes, it's still valid. Thank you. And Chair, if we can just swear in Mr. Brad Ross Johnson, and I can come.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, may you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to provide to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Please state your name and your designation at ESCOM for the record.
My name is Brad Ross Jones. I'm Middle Manager in the Office of the Group Executive Generation.
Thank you very much. You may proceed, Mr. Kassim.
Thank you, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen. Thanks. Chair, these are the topics we will touch in terms of our closing remarks as ESCOM. I think the overwhelming theme at these hearings was around the affordability of the residential customers in the Western Cape. In particular, we heard from many residents from the Guguletu, Mitchell's Plain, Hanover Park, Athlone, Khayelitsha, and many others. So that input is taken on board. It's appreciated not only by the NERSA panel and board members, but also ESCOM as well. And I'll touch around affordability, appreciating that there are mechanisms that ESCOM has around tariff structures around affordability, but it's also important that the rest of the municipalities also address this, and in the importance of free basic electricity that has come up during these hearings. As the chairperson has said, what was interesting that myself and my colleagues remember is this importance of this 10 Rand for a unit of electricity. And what I did remember, some of the residents mentioned that 10 Rand buys them 3 units, some said 4 units, but I think the lady this morning, I think it's Melinda said she spends 10 Rand and she gets 1.3 units. So already now that for me means she's paying about almost 8 Rand a unit. And this inconsistency, Chair, I think to you as NERSA, needs to be addressed with municipalities. At least there should be a consistent rate for that unit of electricity. That was a massive distinguishing factor from the feedback we did receive. So we do acknowledge that, and I guess what is quite emotional when you hear the choices that the people of the Western Cape, and I'm sure we're going to see exists across the country, the poverty levels and inequality that especially the pensioners that receive the 2,190, how do they balance that? And they don't only support themselves. I think as Mr. Neville said today, his budget is always in the red, and then we've heard from many of the residents that they support their kids and even their grandkids to have the electricity to actually study. And how far the one member and lady presented yesterday says, but how can you pay for an increase if you don't have that money? So I think those are the things that not only us and the regulator, but more importantly, government needs to take on board. Eskom can't solve this. Like I said, the financial sustainability of Eskom is not solely dependent on the tariff. It needs other elements to be addressed. So Chair, I've also taken on board the inputs from Mr. Solomons around Eskom's ability to service its customers and that reputation which we're working to improve as Eskom. We know where we've come from in terms of load shedding and interruption of supply. Yes, we've stopped that over the last 7 to 8 months. I've introduced him to the General Manager of the Western Cape, Mr. Mbalelo Yedwa, and then he'll work with him in terms of improving that customer delivery that is required, not only here in the Western Cape, but throughout the country. So, Chair, if I move on then to affordability, which I will touch on, I'll also talk about declining sales and renewables, and then I'll be supported by my colleagues from primary energy and generation. Dan Mashiko will talk about the coal, and then Brad will help me with the fuel oil and the startup gas. So, Chair, I think first and foremost, it's around electrification and universal access. That is a key requirement for the country and the Minister. I think it's top of his priorities. So that still has to be delivered. But I think the one point I also took away is, yes, you can have the access, but if you can't have the affordability, then why have the access? So this is another important message that has come across during these hearings, which we take on board, and I'm sure yourself, Chair, and the members take on board. Around free basic electricity, we spoke about the 50 kilowatts. There's also many proposals around increasing that. But what we want to also show in this closing slides from Eskom is that we've picked up 2 studies. One, firstly, from the Reserve Bank, I think that was in 2021, around the utilization of free basic electricity across the municipalities, and the numbers are extremely low. So I think what we should do as the municipalities and government, we need to increase that utilization, and that administration is key. Obviously, there's other criteria, as the lady mentioned this morning, that she doesn't qualify because of that threshold of a property valuation of 500,000. But I guess these are the things that need to be given back to municipalities, councillors and government to balance this in balancing the dignity of the residents and the citizens of the country. So free basic electricity, yes, there are recommendations, and I think even in Eskom's own retail tariff plan that we've put forward, we make a recommendation to increase that to 150 kilowatt hours per month. Obviously, there's a financial impact that National Treasury and government needs to take into account. But I think what is key from what we're seeing, and it's important that government picks this up, is improving that utilization. As Eskom, what are we doing around affordability? At our lowest tariff, which is a home light 20 amp tariff, in this in the financial year, when there was an 18% increase on that category of tariffs for Eskom's direct customers, we only we passed on a 10% increase, which means we gave effectively 8% of that 18% was not passed on to the consumer. And we look at where Eskom's home light 20 amp subsidy is sitting. You know, there's a subsidy that's built into our tariff of home light at the lowest level, over 43% subsidy. So I think the point we're saying, and I think it comes back to what the presenter from Good Party mentioned. This whole issue about tariffs, what the regulator approves, and these surcharges. And I think that's the message that the regulator needs to also challenge municipalities on. In what subsidies are they passing on to the lowest level and the most vulnerable categories of the electricity consumers? In terms of the inclining block tariffs, like we have in our retail tariff plan, we're proposing that we remove that inclining block, because once you go above 350 kilowatts per hour, then you pay at an increasing rate, which means that 10 rand that you will buy per unit will get you fewer and fewer units. And as we've heard from the residents over this past 2 days, how important that 1 unit of electricity is to boil a kettle of water, etc. So I think, Chair, that's around affordability. Now, the next slide for us, when we saw it, was quite staggering, and maybe there's latest studies that are available, and we should present it during the course of these hearings. The issue in terms of going into protecting of the poor, I've touched on it. I've spoken to a lot of these components, but really now it comes down to not only NERSA but government and municipalities dealing with this issue around affordability, because there is a reality, there is a cost to supplying this electricity to the consumer, and that reliable supply, which is key for economic growth. And as I mentioned in yesterday's opening remarks, yes, NERSA will hold us accountable for those efficient costs. But once those costs are not allowed to be passed on in terms of the tariff, for Eskom to continue to invest and do what is required for that stability of supply, as well as migrating and transitioning towards and away from coal into renewables. For example, we've issued a request for proposal to build 75 megawatts of PV power at Letabo. So yes, I think as Liz McDade said yesterday, you know, where's the issue around climate change, and does Eskom not support it? Our strategy has moved, government has supported that, but again, it happens over time to construct these plants and to implement them. But the source of electricity that Eskom has currently is the coal plants. Let's get it to run to supply the electricity, and then in terms of that strategy move from shutting down to continued operations between now and 2030, it's key for sustainability and security of supply. Eskom will transition into renewables. We're looking to do gas. We support the need in terms of baseload capacity and nuclear power, as well as renewables. But with renewables, you will see in the one slide, there comes other challenges, right? When the sun is not shining, where is the backup? And that's where Eskom has to come in. But there's also technical implications of a lot of renewables on the grid. I'm not an engineer, and in PE, when the gentleman that really one of the two people that that are the senior people that run the system operator. He will talk more around the technicalities and the importance of balancing the stability of the transmission grid and dealing with renewables as they ramp up. So Chairperson, if I move into, and this is the critical slide that I was talking about and the graphic there is from the 2021 Reserve Bank study, but I've also indicated in that last bullet point what we've also picked up yesterday is there is a latest study from Stats SA, I think was published on the 26th of March 2024, which shows of the citizens and the residents that should be benefiting from free basic electricity of around 10 million. It's even gone below 20 million residents that are benefiting from that. You know, in 2021, there's a number of 1.6 million and 1.7 million in terms of FY 2022. Now, if you just look at that number, that on average is looking at a 20% utilization rate, which means 8 out of 10 residents are not benefiting from that free basic electricity. So again, depending, Chairperson, whether you take the 3 Rand per unit or the 4 Rand per unit, or more importantly, like the lady said this morning, maybe it's as much as 7 or 8 Rand per unit. You know, you can work out this will equate to anything between, I think, 125 Rand to 200 Rand. If you get this, that means effectively you don't have to pay that 150 or 200 Rand for electricity. That means your pension can go further to buy the necessary food or to deal with the issues of medicine as well. Yes, it's not going to solve everything, but I think this is the starting point before we also look at saying increase the 50 kilowatts per hour to a higher level. So I think that is the key message that this is telling us, and I think it's a message back to government, to our shareholder, our minister, that they need to look at this issue through the NECOM mechanisms, etc. We've seen the success of that in addressing load shedding, so that's a key component that needs to be addressed, and it will contribute to addressing affordability. I am not saying it's going to solve it, because there are many other factors in terms of affordability. You know, you need to grow the economy, you need to deal with the unemployment, like the one presenter mentioned this morning. You know, still economically active person at 48. We need to get more jobs out there as a country. I think in terms of the 3 key challenges for the country, unemployment is critical, inequality and the poverty that needs to be addressed. So Chair, if I then move on in terms of the other key question that was also asked of Eskom, this issue around the declining sales. So naturally you will see there, you know, many redistributors, municipalities, customers have said there's a need to migrate to renewables, and that does come through and is factored in our sales forecasts. And what we're seeing is then effectively over this period from 2023 to 2030, we are expecting about a 4.2% decline in sales. Obviously, there's that migration to renewables, which means there's less reliance on the national grid and Eskom generators. But as I said, with this, there's also the requirement that when those renewables are not available, those customers will call on Eskom generation to pick up that shortfall as the battery to the country. And that's that infrastructure to maintain it and that capacity to be available in the case when the weather conditions are not as favorable, and when you get towards the evening and the sun goes down, then you need to call on the grid. Unless you are going totally off the grid and you have a backup system, those costs are much more than what we just see as the price of PV and solar that we know through the bid windows have come down. We acknowledge that. But there's an element of going totally off grid or having that partial reliance on the grid, and that cost is through this tariff part of the retail tariff plan is an element that we have proposed as Eskom that needs to be addressed. What we've done in our sales analysis is 80% of that analysis is bottom up, 20% is assumptions that's made to come up with that the rest of the sales. Now the part that we have not built in, and that's why we showed yesterday this cone of uncertainty on the downside and the upside. Yes, we would like, as Eskom and any business would want to sell more. We believe in terms of the availability factors, and the panel has challenged Eskom around increasing that availability factor. The trick for that sales to go up is for the economic growth to improve, and it's not only linked to the price of electricity. As we all know, there are many other factors that factor in that would be required to improve and grow the economy of South Africa, other than just the electricity price. It's a key component. You need to deal with logistics, you need to deal with other mechanisms in terms of security, etc. But we do acknowledge it is a key factor, but it's not the only factor. In industrials, the one question was asked, NPAs, does it mean you're giving them special NPAs because the price of electricity is going up? Yes, the price of electricity has gone up, but what has happened with the commodity prices as well for those economies, industries, and how is that impacting on the sustainability of those industries? When they go through an upcycle, our understanding of these NPAs is then there's a sharing mechanism on those NPA agreements that then get shared with Eskom and effectively the electricity consumer when there's an upside in terms of commodity prices. During the course of the hearings, we'll go into more detail around that. The other part I want to just highlight here is just, yes, renewables, and there's about 6 gigawatts of renewables through the bid window processes on the grid. And I'm sure when Gav Hefford from the system operator talks about the system, he'll go into more detail around the renewables that we already have through the IPP programs, and that's the capacity. But the other point I just want to highlight here, you can't take 6,000 megawatts of PV and equate it to 6,000 megawatts of coal, because this is that will only be supplied during the day when the sun is shining, whereas a coal base load plant, when it's operating, it can operate 24/7. So effectively we say the energy that will be generated from these PV plants, it's effectively 1/3 of the time of that capacity, which we call around a 30% load factor, which means if you want to compare what energy you will get from PV versus a coal baseload plant, to replace 6,000 megawatts of coal plant, you would need 18,000 megawatts of PV solar. But more importantly, the point I want to touch on now, other than, and we appreciate and it's benefited the Eskom system. Yes, when the sun is shining, it means less pressure on the grid. We can do more maintenance, and we've been doing that. It means we don't have to run diesel plant in the day, which must only be run during peak hours when these plants come off, which we will talk around our production plan. But importantly, and I'm not going to do justice to this, but in dealing with more and more renewables that will come online, and as we've seen in the IRP, and we wait the updated IRP, you need to deal with the frequency of the grid, the voltage levels, the ability to restore the system as and when these renewables fluctuate subject to the natural the weather conditions. So that is a key factor that when you're adding renewables, you must also balance the system with other mechanisms, and we'll go into more detail at subsequent hearings. So, Chair, that is my input on some of those key themes. For now, I'll ask my colleagues to deal with the primary energy and the coal usage.
Thank you, Chair. May I proceed?
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you. Chair, we're responding to some of the issues that were raised by the regulator on the submission that we've made, both on the main submission and the generation submission. So we've decided to cover both, although I think the request was more on the generation submission. So we've taken the extract of the, like a submission itself. I think the focus was more, on coal, like the drivers, and, why is our coal cost, going up when there is that displacement, that is happening, from the IPPs and so on. Yeah. We're aware that for the past, I think, year or two, the coal utilization has picked up about 4 million tons, per annum. But going forward in the future, as in the submission, you will see that our coal utilization, is dropping. There is a close relationship between purchases and utilization. So Chair, the penetration and the schedule of some of the IPPs coming in, which should have displaced, coal as per, the energy wheel diagram, a part of it has not, realized, which is where the volume mix, element, and also part of it is to cover that, when we're load shedding, we also had to keep some of the old stations that were, as per the 2035 strategy, as mentioned, previously, that we decided to keep them running, so that when we transition, we don't transition with people, in the dark. So that's the volume aspect, of what drives, the volume. And I think I've already mentioned that going forward, I think the penetration of the, renewables and IPPs is going to displace coal as we reduce in line with our, carbon, decarbonization, commitments, as a country. I mean, by 2035, coal will probably be about 60% of the energy mix, where we're currently sitting at about 83% and so on. However, Chair, as I've mentioned yesterday, is that we are at a point whereby, a number of our long-term, coal contracts are maturing in line with, the age of the plant. So we have historically benefited, from these, long-term contract whereby, the capital outlay or the startup outlay to start, start up these mines are quite historical, and all that we've been incurring is your typical stay in business, a capital operating, but as and when you mine further and further, away from the original point, you need to sink new shafts, you need to replace equipments, you need to establish new mines where you no longer have, reserves, and that's what has been happening. And the replacement one-on-one is not at the same historical price. The new coal, attracts a different price mix compared, to the older coal, as I've mentioned some of them. The mining inflation, Chair, definitely is higher than the general inflation, as we've mentioned, based on our, a basket, of inflation drivers. And I must declare, Chair, as we normally do during these hearings, we intend to do a deep dive, on coal, to take the whole coal chapter, from how we do, a coal sourcing, what we go through and so forth. We're going to expand much more than this, but I think I need to deal with the questions that were asked, in this session. There was also a question, say, but future fuel, how does it affect, the current, pricing on consumption? It's mainly because of, when we amortize this future fuel through expensing, you amortize over a shorter duration, because the remaining life of the power station and the remaining life of the contracts are much more shorter. You're no longer amortizing over a period of 40 years. Now you're doing between, 5 to 10 years, which is why, the amortization rate is quite high. That's what I was trying to explain, yesterday and so on. I think I've touched on, the replacement coal, that it's in a different era currently. The other part that I may not have mentioned is, like any other mining commodity in the country, when exploration is done, the miners tend to go to those mining deposit and reserve that are easier to mine. And the more difficult, like a deposit are always left, to the tail end, whether it's gold, platinum, manganese, and so on. So similarly in the coal space, the more lucrative, easier to mine resources are the ones that we've been exploiting as a country over the years. The remaining resources and reserves are much more difficult, to mine. The geology is very different. The mines are much deeper. Inherently you have to treat and watch the coal, to supply ESCOM, whereas historically most of our coal was what you call run of mine. So you basically mine, you crush and screen, you destoll, and you supply to the station. Now you have to add, the other treatment, a cost and so on. So that's one of the things that drive, those are some of the things that drive, the new coal versus the legacy coal and so on. So getting to the the chapter that is in generation, around the whole coal and fuel spend chair, I think the reinvestment in the mines I've mentioned, as a cost. I'm still on the drivers, of cost, on coal. I've mentioned, equipment replacement, there's nothing that lasts forever. We try and extend, life, but there comes a time where you need to replace. With the new environmental legislation and zero effluent discharge, inherently, you have to treat the water that, comes out of the operations, whether you break the water table or is water that you bring in for mining operation before you can release it, to the environment. So you'll find that most mines now have this water treatment, which never was a base, a part of the baseline in the mining, a process. I've already touched on beneficiation. This is basically coal washing in the coal space. Chair, I think I've mentioned the future fuel impact, through amortization. And that amortization, is basically because of, the remaining useful life of that particular contract, which is related to the power station and so on. I'm gonna sound like I'm repeating myself, Chair, but it's just to demonstrate, that on both page 75s, of what was, in the, ESCOM submission and the deep dive on generation, the message is consistent, with what, we have mentioned, yesterday. It's just now we're giving it, the visual. So maybe in wrapping up, Chair, to what the cost drivers are, and what are typical things that are in the, inflation basket, if you have to compare it, to the general inflation basket, be it, a PPI or CPI, they are slightly, different. So with the whole transitioning away from decarbonization, capital has got two elements. So there's new capital, which is also at a certain, return rate. But the cost of capital in the coal space has also, gone up. So there is shortage of capital, and that capital, costs a little bit more. So is that particular capital structure, for new mine establishment and also for expansion, of existing and operation mines, because mining is a geographically expanding, operation. You don't stand still, you move, to access all the coal deposits. The type of mine, Chair, it's also, a driver of cost, whether it's underground, depending how, deep, the coal deposits are. If it's too deep, you go underground. Underground tends to be, more expensive. If it's open cast, it's much more shallow. But depending also, how much, you have to remove to access the coal, what we call strip ratio. As I mentioned, all the legacy mines where people went to the easier to mine, coal, the strip ratios were quite low, which means you move less material to access your coal. Now the deposits that are remaining, you have to move more, 3 or 4 times the amount of material, which affects also, the pricing of coal and so on. Rehabilitation cost is a consistent, but it's also a driver, in cost. We have spoken already about, the processing and beneficiation to bring the quality, to what the power stations require. The older the plant gets, we have been changing our coal quality requirements, making it more stricter, requiring, a much higher, what we call calorific value, that is the energy input, of the coal. That's also another driver. The cost of capital, I think, Chair, I have mentioned and so on. Then over and above that, so on the left-hand side basically is the cost impact, to get the coal out of the ground and get it, to the gate of the mine, and so on. And then the other, elements that are, influencing your coal price is basically how to get the coal, to the power stations. I think historically most of our mines were captive mines, the power stations were built at the mouth of the mine, you move the coal by conveyor. And when we started bringing back some of the power stations that we have decommissioned, they did not have that tight colliery, so we had to start moving, coal by rail or road. Our preference is conveyor first, which is cheaper. You can move much more volumes, effectively. Where conveyor is not available, we would use rail. And then the last resort, is using road transport, because you do find mines that are 100 kilometers away, from the power station. So it is not feasible, to do it, via conveyor and so on. So the transportation, and the handling of the coal to transport, and depending whether you have bimodal or single mode. What I mean by that is that, is it a direct loading at the mine to get the coal to the station, or you have to move it to a siding by truck first, the first leg, and then you put it on rail, and when you're offloading on the other side, that's another cost driver, because our mix has changed, over the years and so on. There are other external, price pressures. We do not price our coal based on the export market, but the export market does have an impact, on the demand side and so on. So we have, a bespoke, bilaterally concluded contracts, but the export market, when it is, heating up and it's lucrative, miners tend to want to serve, that particular, market. And when they start looking at returns, they start comparing. So that normally also does, impact, we've seen those type of cycles, before. But you'll find that exposure to us is quite limited, to uncontracted coal, not coal that is already contracted, because our preference is to have long-term contract where we just manage the offtake and not always going to the, to the shops for coal. Yeah. And I think similarly, the overall global, demand for coal, fortunately the global market has been consistent at about 1 billion tons, a seaborne market, but we have seen the South African exports, not going up, mainly because of, pricing and also the logistics, to get the coal out of the country. So currently, there is no pressure, from the exports because of, the logistics. I mean, we expecting this year that it'll probably do about 40 million tons. They did 39 million tons last year. So that is not putting pressure, on Eskom, and most of the miners that supply us are basically, a Eskom type product. They don't do, export products, and which is what our preference is, Chair Sonia. Chair, I think I'll pause there, and hopefully, we will shed more light when we do the deep dives on coal across the value chain and deal with all the 3 years, what it impacts. Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
All right, the question let's go to the next one. Okay, the concern was raised yesterday about the increase from the F25 decision in the previous MYPD and what we're asking for from 26 on. So I thought we'd start with giving background on what we actually use fuel oil for, and I'm not going to go through the detail here. I mean, that can be, there's a reference for everyone to look at, but typically you use it for station startup, combustion support. So, especially when you're changing levels of the power station, of the unit, you use fuel oil to keep it running and make sure it doesn't trip, etc. There are also safety aspects where it's useful, and then when you do maintenance, there are various activities where you need the fuel oil. So then I think we need to look at a couple of things here. The increase is largely due to volume. So the price increase contributes a smallish amount. The volume increase is 89%, almost 90% of that increase is due to the volume. And I think it's worth mentioning here that yes, it's a large increase from the decision of FY25. However, from the application, it's a much smaller one, and in fact, from what our previous usage is of 8.7 billion last year, and our year-end projection this year of about 8.5, it's a much smaller increase. However, again, as you've seen in many other things, the change in our strategy from the 25 strategy to shut down a number of the units, of the older units, to continued operations where we're still going to run those units to 2030, that's had a significant impact on the usage and what we anticipate it to be. So another aspect is our plant operational recovery, where we've increased maintenance. So when you increase the maintenance, you've got more and more shutdowns, etc., and you need more fuel oil for that, especially when you ramp up and stabilize the unit, etc., for pre-commissioning tests, synchronizing tests, etc., and then on-load tests as well. So effectively what it is to limit the fuel oil usage, what we would then impact is we wouldn't be able to do as much maintenance as we want to do to improve the performance, which is our major drive. It would increase the risk of trips from combustion support, and also would increase the risk of not being able to bring back units effectively from all outages or stoppages, whether they're planned or forced. Thank you.
Chair, I think that's our feedback for today, Chair. We're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eskom. I don't know if there's any one maybe clarification question that you would like to ask, Mr. Pukul. Anything from your side?
Thank you, Chairperson. I think, colleagues, for instance, when we talk about transportation, it's not going to work for this meeting because we have to go granular. In your transportation, we have to talk about the transportation of coal from Medupi to other power stations and talk about whether that's efficient or not in what we are going to do. Unfortunately, we can't do it here. And then when we talk about the mining inflation being different from the CPI, if we look at 2023, your mining inflation was 8.9 and CPI was 6, and those numbers don't talk to the amount, the big differences in the numbers. I think NUMSA, when they did their one, they probably used inflation. That's why they said it should be 75 billion rand. And the last one, around I think when we had this discussion, in fact, the reason you said it's not adequate, that the answer was that the increase in the gas and oil thing was because of the price of diesel. And you've actually proved that it probably that answer was not adequate because the price is only 11%. And that increase in the volume by 89% in 2 years is also not explainable. You are not spending much more on maintenance than you used to. And the things that you are doing with gas and oil are the same as you have been doing in the last 75 years that Eskom has existed. So I think for this meeting we are not going to be able to go granular, but that 89% volume increase in 2 years when your maintenance is not increased by that amount is also something that needs to be explained. I would not want to waste the time, but I think in our engagements those are the issues that you must be ready and prepared to discuss. We must separate things that are done because that are done by Eskom inefficiently, like transporting coal from that. It's not the same as the transportation of coal just to top up in the fixed mines or the cost plus mines. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I take it that this is just an input, because these are the things that we're gonna really get into them, item by item, looking into those costs and providing sufficient responses and more information to explain.
Thanks, Chair. We'll take that on board.
All right. Thank you very much. All right.
I just want to correct a possible misconception. It's not an 89% increase in the cost of fuel oil due to maintenance. Of the increase, which actually is much smaller if you look at the actuals at the moment, more like about 5%, of that increase, 89% is due to volume and 11% due to price. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. As indicated, we still need to get into that. Thank you very much, ESCOM, for your response. We have now come to the end of the public hearings here in Cape Town, but we are still continuing with these gatherings in other provinces to give the members of the public and other stakeholders an opportunity to engage with the application from ESCOM. We will also get some further details, obviously, from ESCOM in terms of their presentations in other provinces, especially on areas where they did not include the kind of details that we are interested in. So I'm hoping that they will amend the presentations accordingly so that we can also reduce the time that we take in asking questions, hoping that they will include some of those details. At this point in time, I must thank the members of the public for being here. Thank the interpreters at the back. Thank the people that were helping us with the sign language. Thank everybody that was helping people here. We are very happy that you are here. You helped us and everybody, and help the members of the energy. Thank the members of the energy regulator. Thank ESCOM also for bringing your team along so that they can provide as much clarification as possible. We thank you for that. Thank you, the NERSA staff as well. We thank you for all the logistics. We know that you slept very late, but you made this to go smoothly. And the members of the communities, I can't forget you, because really you made this public hearing to be what we expected by your presence and also sharing your your individual experiences on how electricity is affecting you, affecting your lives, and that is very important, and we are taking the messages along. Be assured of that. So thank you very much for that, members of the energy regulator. Thank you, and the public hearing is now adjourned. Thank you so much.